Welcome back to Derry Public Radio. Reporting from the basement of the Derry Civic Center, this is CM Alexander with the news. In trends, the rise of AI-generated identities has made the youth skeptical of screens and yearning for more tangible truth. Enter witch matchmakers, where trendy young daters trek to mossy hills and haunted woods to have their romantic prospects physically examined by certified crones. Services include aura sniffing, soul reading, and the increasingly popular full-body demon scan. Studio intern Sabrina claims her witch coughed up a mouse who told me my boyfriend was cheating. If something this old can be new again, I'm going to start breeding Facebook Messenger pigeons. You're listening to Derry Public Radio. This is Derry Public Radio.
Welcome back to Derry Public Radio, a bi-weekly Stephen King Book Club podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Kahn, alongside CM Alexander.
Hello, everyone.
And Eve Gatto.
Hey, constant readers.
And we are back with another
Jesus.
episode.
Wow.
The energy.
Yes, I'm riding this energy like a horse through the barony the whole way through this episode. I'm so hyped. Because we are back with Wizard and Ass. Sorry, Wizard and Glass. I hope you didn't edit that joke out, CM. You can't now.
I hope you did.
And we are back with part 2 covering Susan is the title of this part. We have CM leading our discussion. Oh, Patreon selection by Jason Keene. Thank you, Jason. This is I've been waiting for this episode for so long, and I'm finally going to relinquish control. CM, take it away. Save me from myself.
Thanks, Josh. So, quick recap. Our ka-tet won the riddling competition, and our train kind of gently crashed into the terminal in Topeka, Kansas. It's gentle because they lived a train wreck. So, yeah, not too bad. So they are in Topeka, but it is not any of their Topekas. Fortunately, it is the Topeka of Captain Trips.
Or one of them.
We're getting a Topeka at Captain Trips.
Love
geez.
that.
That's adorable. So there's a thinny in the direction that they need to go, and the sound is having this strange effect on Roland, who is finally ready to share his story. And that's kind of where we left things. He's starting this tale, so...
Can I tell you, CM,
Yeah?
that when you started our recap with the mention of a train and a riddling contest, my brain went, what the fuck are you talking about? What book are we reading? Because none of that comes up in our reading today. And everything from part 2 and part 3 is so infinitely compelling. I have fucking forgot about Blaine's shitty existence.
It seems like another book.
I'm going to bring this up because when I didn't mention it last episode, I talked about it off mic afterwards, that I almost asked you both, was it hard to take notes on part 1 because we knew what we were going to get to? And we talked for like an hour and a half in part 1. And
it was great.
Notice the first thing we said is, fuck all that we talked about. Let's get into the real part of this book.
No,
and it's insane that
first
this book is so good.
The first part of this book is really good.
You're both so intense.
I'm so sorry.
We're scaring
I will
CM
take a
and we need
breath.
to dial
I've
it back.
also slept very little in the past few days.
It's my favorite kind of energy for a podcast.
Manic.
Yeah. Manic
What
excited,
kind of podcast?
manic sleepy.
What kind of podcast do you listen to loud?
Oh boy. Okay, so as Josh, you said, we are with part 2, Susan, chapter 1, Beneath the Kissing Moon. And we kick this off in such a cool way. Is there a better way to start an old tale than with a terrifying witch?
No.
Witches
no
are so
way.
fucking scary and cool.
Yeah.
And it sucks that this witch sucks.
It's on brand that this witch sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Let's
she's-
talk about who this witch is.
Rhea of the Coos. And she is almost immediately, you sense that no matter how old she appears, she's far, far older
Yeah.
She has a muty cat that has 6 legs and no
Musty.
hair. Musty.
Not Misty.
Yeah.
I kept wanting to say Misty. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
And this horrid woman is kind of annoyed at the night she has ahead of her because she has to do stuff.
Yeah.
She has 2.
I get that.
Yeah, hashtag relatable. This is why I said, like, the character is so evil and awful but there are so many times I'm like, I get her.
Yeah.
I too want to live in squalor and drink a snake.
I don't want to sympathize and I don't want to think she's cool.
Yeah, but witches are just innately dope as fuck.
Yeah.
It's the quiet amount of power they have.
Mhm.
You know, that's the true horror of
And then
witches
they do
to
something
me.
terrible, like everything Rhea does, or that scene in The Witch where that witch grinds up a baby.
Ooh.
Yeah, good movie.
We're going to get to more grinding later in this episode.
Oh,
so
boy.
much grinding.
So much. It never ends.
Grinding of different qualities.
Yes, it's true.
It's true.
A variety in our quality of grindings, yes.
Okay, so Rhea has
goodness.
just met with the Big Coffin Hunters. We're going to get a lot more of them later. And she has been tasked with holding on to this special item. And it's a box. And it is having an effect on her box.
Heyo. We're gonna read Stephen King writing a lot about moisture in this episode.
I'm going to make this wizard glass all about vaginas in a minute.
This is the most vagina forward
Oh.
Stephen King book.
Yes.
We start by looking into a pink pearl of wisdom. I mean,
We all know what that is.
Mhm.
And the power it has over people and the fear it inspires in men.
absolutely.
Sorry, okay, I already did
You're
it.
absolutely
I'm
right.
just going to toss the argument I had coming up. Boom, we're done. Finally, I was concise.
But yeah, I love she gets this mysterious box that the Coffin Hunters essentially say, you need to keep hold of this. We know that it's on behalf of the good man.
Don't look at it.
Do not touch
You don't
this.
tell a witch what to do.
Right.
Mhm.
We find out later that the initial plan was that Mayor Thorne was supposed to be hanging on to this, and that Eldred Jonas was immediately like, he does not have the capacity.
Mhm.
So someone more powerful
Yeah.
than the object should keep the object, which turns out to be a mixed bag of success.
I feel like it still would have worked out better this way than had Mayor Thorne gotten it.
Yeah.
Oh, for
I don't want to
sure.
know what would have happened.
No.
I like immediately in the setup of this. This has such and I'm fantasy heads are going to yell at me because it's the most basic take, but it's like it's very Game of Thrones where there's instantly you have a feeling of like factions.
Yeah.
Like you are getting it is dropped so effortlessly to be like, who are these people? Who are they working for? You can already tell that we have the only people we've met so far are villains, obviously,
Yeah.
but you know they don't like each other,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, how are all of these different people going to bounce off of each other? What do they all want? It's really good.
This
It's the
is
world
going to
building
be a
is
Western.
dope. Yes.
Yeah.
Eddie was right. It's so we shortly see that Rhea is really, really, truly a witch. And she does something. So to access what is inside of this box, you have to touch it in a special place. She's got like this hidden compartment.
Mhm.
And let's talk about the adrenaline,
The
shot of
ritual.
adrenaline that she gets to be able to do this beforehand. I don't even know what.
I have it's so cool. It's so cool. She goes to this box and she pulls out a snake. And the way I read it, and maybe this was just my imagination going off, she like touches it on the
Mhm.
head.
Yes.
And then it rears to life. And like in my head, it's a dried, shriveled
Yeah.
snake.
Yeah.
That's kind of
And
how
she touches it and it comes to life and she picks it up and it has 4 sets of fangs. dope.
Yeah.
And she holds it and says, poison strong enough to kill an entire town, basically. And she takes 2 drops of it on the yellowing slab of her tongue.
Gross.
That
Gross.
description.
And the way I interpreted it is like she is doing this deep old magic and bringing herself to death's door specifically to be able to access some dark energy. I don't know. It's not explained and it doesn't
Yeah.
need to be. It's awesome.
I took it as I'm for sure gonna open this box. I'm gonna
Mhm.
use this orb 1,000,000%. I'm gonna get high as fuck.
Yeah.
Like it's that poison. Because the way she describes it, almost like she's actively having a heart attack. She's like actively in
Yeah.
cardiac arrest and is like,
She hears
now let's use
voices
it.
too
Yeah.
of what she calls her unseen friends. Well, the unseen friends, not even her unseen friends.
Which she also later, I think, goes hand in hand with a mention of the sound of the wind, and she tells Susan that the wind is the sounds of the dead screaming.
Well, and she later on too, she's like, people talk about all the faces of the moon. There's only one. It's the demon face. It's death. So the way she interprets the world, the way a witch sees everything is just so
Stanky
metal.
witch eyes.
There's an image and some words on this box that are important. We have the eye.
Oh, is it described as the eye of the Crimson King?
Could be.
I wanted to make sure I didn't miss.
It's described, if I remember right, vaguely enough that that could be. And then the words, I see who opens me, which I wouldn't have, it would be enough to fuck me up. Or I would wait till it's like really dark and I'd wear a mask.
Magical forces are easily tricked. They're like people seeing Superman. They can't really tell.
Yeah.
I see who sees me, but I don't have my glasses on.
It's such an ominous but direct and bold statement that I'd be like, I believe that. And so if you guys ever want to hide something from me, if you don't want me to look somewhere, just be like, I see who goes here. And I'm like, oh, it ain't me. So she takes the box outside to open it because when her senses are sharpened, either from the venom or from just even being in proximity of this item, she can smell just the disgusting, stale air of her very tiny cottage or hut all around her. And it's like, no, this thing needs to be in the fresh air in the night under the moon. And I don't want to be gross, but this scene is
but she's
kind of
gross.
gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has an interesting effect on her when she finally opens it up and she pulls out this glass orb that is emitting this pink glow.
I love the thing where it describes the light flashing on her face, and for just a brief second, she looks like a child.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool.
It's going to have the opposite effect on her, though, later, as we'll come to find out in this section, which I think is really neat.
Yeah.
I immediately, I think it's just because of being in the world of the Dark Tower, and Eddie is such a big part of that the ball is immediately heroin to me.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because it's, we talk about in this book specifically about feelings as drugs a few times, and it just comes back to that for me, is that an example of at the first touch you are hopelessly addicted, and that's kind of what this is for her.
I like that. That's cool. It also makes her go big juicy. So
Sure does.
something
For the first time in a long time.
So I get it. Like, you would never want to get rid of this thing. The other cool thing about this glass is that when she looks into it, she can see something. She sees 3 riders. She just said farewell to 3 riders, and now she sees 3 more, but these ones are different.
They're babies. She first thinks they're gunslingers, but then is very quickly realizes, no, they're children. But the one with the flat-brimmed hat, there's something about him that bears watching.
Yes. So we know that she is very intuitive already.
And it's a great way of introducing, because like the way this whole section starts with, we are sitting down, Roland is starting his story. Cut to, there's a witch. And we're like,
cut to
what?
nobody we know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're not with him.
And then having her look in this ball and immediately seeing 3 young men on horses,
Like,
we are like, aw, damn, it's going down. And then I don't know when it is, if it's now or later. That it's like, oh yeah, it's Will Dearborn. And we're, oh, who?
Like,
Who?
Yeah.
But it's great because it's so obvious that it's our boys.
So another powerful pink orb is on its way. Her name is Susan Delgado.
Heyo.
And she is a little bit early, and that is going to just ruin the rest of her life, this mistake she made.
Before we actually get to what happened, there's a piece of quiet horror that I just want to throw out there to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There's a moment where she is walking. She was told by Rhea that she had to walk. Rhea gave her some bullshit excuse about it being part of the meditation of the magic. Really, she just didn't want her appointments to touch.
Yeah. Again, relatable.
And when Susan later reflects on the walk and the way that she is aware that she is by far the prettiest person, full stop, in this town by a long shot. She's not arrogant about it. It's just a fact of where we are. And when she walks and she's thinking about the men in Hambury and the way that men have looked at her, and then to hear the Big Coffin Hunters riding up behind her when everybody knows she's on her way alone up this trail to the witch.
Yeah.
And then she doesn't call it hiding, but she hides from them and sees them ride past her, and then after a while ride back. I'd feel like they were looking for me. You know?
Yeah.
I wanted to settle that. It's just the horror that she's kind of already been through that we don't know about yet.
Yeah.
Until she gets here.
Ooh, no, that's a good point. What do you guys think of our very complicated introduction to Susan?
I think it shows everything you need to know about Susan so quickly.
Yeah, she rules.
Yeah, she's amazing. She the ritual of looking at the orb is interrupted because Musty gets Rhea's attention because Rhea's so absorbed she doesn't hear Susan singing. And thank God she did, because it gets her time to get her little witch legs back to the hut. And Rhea is like, well, she didn't see me, thank God, because it would have interrupted her singing. And we later find out that Susan saw it, realized she shouldn't see it, and was able to keep her voice level.
I love how she's like, when you see an old lady like that run, you know she doesn't want to be seen. And I would have been like, dear God, a witch is running near me. Like, isn't that like if you were at night just walking in the wilderness and you saw a witch
naked
just
old lady
running?
just sprinted by me, I would leave and never come back.
I would die instantly.
Yeah. Again, I know I just said I don't like using a naked old woman as a source of horror, but if that happened to me, I would shit myself and die.
We get a pass because we're going to be naked old ladies someday.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, how fun's that gonna be?
I'm going to run past people and terrify them.
Yeah. And they're like, what was that?
I need a cool noise to make.
Yeah, start workshopping your old lady noise.
Listeners, give me your ideas. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't send us the voice notes. I will not listen.
Oh boy.
I'll listen.
Okay, so
what I was saying basically is that it's a great show of like she can keep her cool. She has great composure. She's very smart. She understands, doesn't quite understand the world around her because she's 16, but she understands it further than most. Because
she's had a hard life, we come to find out.
And her dad kept her kind of as a right hand. Like he didn't treat her differently as a girl.
She had a life before it became hard.
Yes.
Not a challenging life, but not in a bad way.
She had a life of duty and responsibility.
Yes. So she probably definitely was already old beyond her years.
Yeah. Horse girl energy.
Considering,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
part of why she how she was able to be manipulated into making this decision, not just through childish means,
Right.
but preying upon her sense of duty. So what she's here for is an exam, because she has signed an agreement to bear Mayor Thorin's child. He's much older. He's like in his 50s.
He's 50 years older than she is, so he
She's
is in his
16,
60s.
yeah, he's in his 60s. And Rhea has to make sure that she's a virgin and she doesn't have any strange marks on her body that might indicate
From
that,
demons.
yeah, she's possessed or unclean in some way. And I had kind of complicated feelings about the way this interaction between them unfolds when Susan gets to the hut, because she just saw this lady running and she can tell, she's like, oh, this isn't someone who calls herself a witch. This is a real ass witch. And then she proceeds to just be so blunt.
It's awesome.
It is awesome, but the whole
She does
time
not give
I'm
a
cringing because I'm like, Susan, she's powerful. Don't.
Yeah, at one point she sees like a pile of skulls in Rhea's bedroom, and then she's like, "Don't touch me, bitch! I'll get the mayor." It's awesome.
It's terrifying.
Yes, and massively unpleasant.
So
this
intense.
whole scene.
And another issue is that Susan's early arrival caused Rhea to put the wizard glass back kind of sloppily, so Susan catches the glow from it out of the corner of her eye, because this is a very tiny space, a small room with a closet-sized room off to the side that is her
Doesn't take a
bedroom.
huge perception check.
Yeah.
So Rhea is a dick. They get off on the wrong
yes,
foot
yes.
so hard because she's like, oh, you're early. And Susan's like, yeah, I ran part of the way. The moon must have gotten into my blood. My dad would have said that. And Rhea's like, yeah, but your dad got squished so hard.
Yeah.
He's so dead.
A horse rolled over your dad, and all he heard was the symphony of his bones snapping. Fucking calm down.
And Susan's like, okay, let's get on with this, bitch. And also, maybe you should talk less, old woman.
Yeah, it's awesome how well they characterize Susan so fast. Like, we know that she is such an important character, and I cannot imagine this. I cannot imagine loving Susan as much as I do if this section had started with Roland coming in.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, she's our hero.
Yeah.
We get time to get to know her. And yeah, I think that's cool. I didn't think about that. So Rhea reminds her that she's the witch in the room when she escalates this threat from like a 2 to a 10. It's like, I will, you watched your mouth because I'll cut out your tongue and your
I'll blind
mayor
you.
will hate
and-
your rotten breath. And she's just like, okay. So they agree to get on with it. And as Rhea is counting the gold coins that Susan gave her as payment for the exam, Susan notices that glow, and Rhea sends her to get some firewood. So she's going to be really nosy again and be like, I'm not going to look at anything this lady does. I want to be invisible.
Yeah, that's a big thing. If I were in her shoes, I would just be like, head down.
Yeah,
But I'm not a
it
badass
shows
like
that
Susan.
while she is wise beyond her years, she's also a teenager. She's a kid.
Also, that pink light's hard to look away from.
That's true.
Curia,
Might not
once
entirely be her fault.
It's a little bit.
Yeah, so what does Susan see when she goes around the hut?
I like this. She like Harriet the Spies around the yard a little bit. And she's like, she has to crawl under some bushes, so she lifts her dress so that Rhea won't see the mud on her knees from crawling around. Right? And she gets to the window and sees Rhea crouched looking in this box and sees her face change.
Sees how dangerous. Like, she can tell immediately if this witch is so powerful and is drawn into this. This is pretty crazy. And the voice in the back of her head is like, move, you dumb bitch. She's going to know you've been gone a while.
So when she comes back in with the firewood, she almost trips over the cat, who I can't hate a cat. So like Musty is not described as being a good cat, but
Musty is your cat's, but with 2 extra legs. That's how I imagine.
Honestly, I imagined it as very cute, but with extra legs.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. I would have a
You own
multi-legged cat.
muties.
I want all my cats to have several legs.
Ideally, yeah. I mean, I'd love them with less, but.
So when Susan comes back, Rhea comments on how long it took her. She's like, oh, I got scared by a spider and I hate spiders. And she's like, if you hate spiders, you're going to hate Mayor Thorne's dick even more. And Susan then watches Rhea magically light the firewood with her hand.
That shit was rad.
And I'd be like, that hand's not going near my pink orb.
It is. What's great is when she throws the logs just loosely, Susan in her head is like, you dumb bitch. Now I'm going to have to fix your fire. And Rhea just puts her hand over them and mumbles and they burst into flames. I would do that all the time if I could.
I would be so scared of this woman. I would accidentally become her apprentice so hard. So I'd be like,
I would
can
read
I
this
build
book.
this for you?
I would read
Not
this
even on
book.
purpose. I just be like,
This
what
is
can
a
I do for
manga
you?
that I need. Yeah.
I nearly made a note that that's the point that CM would choose to become her
No.
apprentice. Was that CM would have decided that I think my survival odds are better if I side with you, not against you.
Yeah.
I was about to accuse you of lying, but the way you explain that is like, oh no, he knows exactly what he's talking
No,
about.
I think I've seen an anime a lot like that, and it was very gay.
I think it would have to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so the exam. Susan has to strip naked, and Rhea examines every single inch of her body, including her virginity. And the whole time she is making shitty comments that are also, fortunately for Susan, very honest. And Susan is going to get a more realistic and less rose-colored picture of what this arrangement truly means. Because her Aunt Cordelia is just, we'll find out
worst.
more and more, but she has been manipulating her and didn't tell her even what this exam would entail.
Yeah, the practicalities of, like, she's a high school girl. You're going to have a powerful man's baby and get a house and horses and all of this stuff. And isn't that great?
And a living doll to take care of.
Yes.
Susan wants children, so she plays on that instinct that Susan happens to have.
But without any of the, like, context of living in the world and, like,
Not having
dealing with
autonomy over your own body.
Yes.
Basically, which she doesn't have now either, because not to spend a lot of time on this because it grows to read about, but
It
she
sucks.
gets sexually assaulted by Rhea, who shows her how to masturbate, because no 16-year-old girl has figured that out on her own. But Susan,
No, they need a
is
witch to tell
surprised.
them.
if that was like really how that happened,
You have to be taught by a witch how to masturbate.
Yeah.
No women. That's no
That's
women.
how I figured it out.
Eve, are you okay?
One Halloween.
This is why kids who live in the Midwest should never play in the forest alone.
Too many witches.
So the exam is done. We're not going to spend time on that. It's just
Yeah.
It's invasive in every way you can imagine.
If you've read this, you know. Rhea gives Susan a note, and it has the word honest and a special symbol that is Rhea's signature, and it can't be copied.
Looks like a sideways pitchfork.
Rhea tells her she and the mayor can't consummate this relationship. with
Thank God.
Huge quotes around it. Until later that fall after Fair Day, which is about 3 months away. And Susan's like, she's so happy. And she's like, oh my gosh, 3 months. That's a long time. Thank goodness. It is not a long time at all. But she tells her to keep the note. Don't let her aunt take it, because she's like, I know your aunt's a bitch. She's not going to take this. Don't let her do that. And as Susan is leaving, Rhea decides to get revenge on her, because as she was touching her in a way she definitely was not part of the exam, Susan was like, get away from me or I'll kick you into that fire.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
she does threaten to kick her into the fire, which
doesn't
is
she call
great.
her like a vile thing or something?
You unnatural thing.
Also vile. And so what does Rhea do with Susan at the doorway?
We wish we knew. She puts her in hypnosis, and we have no idea.
No, but she
She
does
starts
begin,
stroking her hair,
Yeah.
though.
particularly her long blonde braid. She
We're gonna hear
starts
a lot about.
stroking, and we definitely could not make any educated guesses. But she does say that when reaping comes and when your virginity is taken, you are going to do something that will take the fun out of Thorin's little prize.
Yeah.
Not to jump ahead at all, but I was so relieved reading this as a teenage girl when I found out what it actually is, because my mind went way darker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
Oh.
like
I thought she's gonna have her like stab him to death or something after.
yeah, it definitely gives you the feeling of something like there's danger
It's
here.
not a prank.
But
This is a
also
prank.
but also the way she says it, she's like, because she's terrified of people that can actually affect her. Like
Yeah.
she is that's a thing about Rhea, is she's sniveling.
Mhm.
Because even to Susan, when they start the exam, Rhea like falls back into this, well, come sit over here and we'll do that. And she can tell that it is like this.
She's putting on an act.
Yeah, she's
like for survival,
sniveling
like
because
she's
she
always,
knows
yeah.
that this girl is important to the mayor.
Susan
and
has
that
a certain amount of
she
power now.
is kind of a public servant. Is that like
Yeah.
kind of what you feel?
By not making waves,
Yeah.
gets her left alone, and that's what she wants.
Yeah,
so
that's how
it's-
she thrives. She's
yeah.
not a direct head-on threat kind of person.
Right.
Even
'Cause
what
I
she does to
imagine-
Susan is not direct.
I imagine she's crazy powerful, but I'm sure a whole town versus one witch could still end up in
Yeah.
favor
I
of
am
the
sure
town.
Jonas could just shoot her right in the head. Easily.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We don't know what she's capable of.
So we are done with this. Susan is walking along the road back to town, and she's finally kind of starting to realize that to have Mayor Thorin's baby means that she is going to have sex with him.
As often
And-
as it takes.
Yeah, not only that, probably a lot. And basically, this isn't about an heir, it's about a horny old man.
Mhm.
And, this is just a cover story. So this sets the sort of the character of the town a little bit too.
Yeah.
And gives us a sense of like, oh, we're talking like old school traditional values. And ooh.
And later, as we start to pull threads as to what's really going on in this town,
Mm-hmm.
it gets
Oh
so
my god!
dark.
This
so
The
town-
fast.
chapter of the party at Thorin's house is so
It's
cool.
Yeah, it is.
Just the
I wanna-
intrigue and I said in our Little Sisters of Eloria episode, I wanted that story to just be Detective Roland. Completely having forgotten that that's basically what
Yeah.
this is.
Speaking of, we are about to get a palate cleanser for us and Susan for sure, because she is not the only one on the road tonight. And she's so lost in thought that she doesn't realize that.
Oh my
No.
god! I have to start fanning myself now.
This is the reason I wanted to bring up the interaction with her hiding from the Big Coffin Hunters before this also, is because it's another relief of when we realize that it's Roland.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We finally realize that she's safe even though she doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's kind of all you want for her right now, is like to know she's going to be safe.
Mhm.
And it's a really great meet cute.
Oh
Because
my god!
Yes.
she hides off the road because she hears him coming and realizes that he's humming the song that she was singing when she was walking up to Rhea's. And he sees her. He's not fooled by her, and asks to walk her home, basically. And she says, "You can walk me as far as a mailbox because people are watching."
She's very proper
Yeah.
and very mindful of her position, her
Mhm.
delicate position.
Yes.
And he introduces himself as Will Dearborn, and he just got into town with his two good friends, Arthur Heath and Richard Stockworth. Okay, I read this as a teenager. I was like,
Mhm.
13 is perfect. So I was just a little bit younger than these two. This was like the ultimate love story to me. It was super duper impactful because I think it captures the feeling of first love so well as we go on through these chapters. Especially is like someone had finally put into the right words those really intense feelings as a teenager you have that you're like didn't know were going to happen to you, and they're like, what's that? Am I going crazy? Like, what is this? Has
No.
anyone felt this way ever?
I don't even know where to begin here because, yeah, like, first of all, wild that, again, okay, hold on. I got to gather my thoughts because this whole storyline. So I read this book for the first time in high school.
Mhm. Perfect.
And it was good. it hit me different.
Oh, no.
No, I remember loving this book that I've said since the start of this podcast. This is like my favorite book in the tower, and it's not close. But it did not until reading it now, this time, as a 37-year-old woman, that I'm like, oh, this is just a straight up like romance novel. And it hits different.
I had
It's
a
sexy.
note. Yeah, I had a note like, oh, King doesn't write bad like YA romance.
No, it's so good.
And he doesn't always write women well. So to say that's like, I guess, and it's how it is as teenage romance effective as it is female teenage body horror effective. It's half so hard and awful to read, and half like, oh, my heart's aflutter.
Every time Roland and Susan are in the same room, I'm like, I want 1,000 pages of this.
Yeah.
It stands out so much that it's all the negative stuff is treated like, yes, because you're a woman. And that, like, where you get that we have this sincere, beautiful romance getting swept away with this love, but all the negative things are the duty, the responsibility of woman. And it's the contrast is so great.
So along their walk, they pass a place.
Also, I like it when they kiss and stuff. We haven't gotten there yet.
No, we
Sorry.
haven't.
We'll
But
get
it's
there a
cute.
lot.
Okay.
We'll get there a lot.
They pass a place that shocked me the first time I read this book. It's a very ancient, mysterious place called the Sitgo. Why is there a modern day gas station in Midworld? Like this?
Oh, it's not a gas station. It's the like.
Well, I mean, you know what
oil
it is.
yeah, the
field.
oil field.
Why is the brand?
Yes.
Yeah. It's,
Because the world's moved on.
it's
Yeah.
and we find that at first when Rhea gives Susan her mark. Because when she gives Susan her mark, it's on paper with Sitgo letterhead.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's just like a Sitgo pad of paper, which is now a relic of a witch. It's so good. I love the Dark Tower.
So as they're walking and Susan's kind of explaining what they're seeing, you know, things about town, she gets a cover story that they're going to be giving to the rest of the town.
Yes. And Roland performs it
Yeah.
very well.
Except for all the times he gets startled and tries
To draw his guns.
Yeah.
yeah. But Roland's not an actor. He's also
Yeah.
not a liar. And so, but this is how important it is because he's committed so hard to it.
Mhm.
And he explains that he and his two friends have been sent as half punishment, half chore, because they were getting rowdy. They got drunk one night and broke the leg of a thoroughbred horse, which is
Big deal.
pretty much a big
Yeah.
deal because a lot of horses are still being mutants and dying in birth. And so as
Yeah, you said that like they were making choices.
Oh.
These horses are still being
they're
mutants.
still being
They're
mutants
dying at
and they're
birth.
dying at birth like a bunch of fucking quitters. Anyway, and that their job is to count for the affiliation.
Mhm.
Anything and everything that can be called upon because Hambury has always been strong for the affiliation.
Yeah, this is the safest possible place. Not to say it's safe, as Roland's father knows, and we definitely come to find out, but this is a safe place.
Right. The fighting is happening in the West.
Yes. And we get throughout this walk too, we get a lot of really cute moments where Susan's just like so taken by Roland and she's trying to keep him at arm's length. But like at one point he starts whistling Careless Love, which was the song she was singing earlier before the witch's hut. And so she starts to hear this voice in her head. It's ka like the wind. It'll come and blow your plans away. And we're going to get that a lot more. And it also makes this story so much more romantic too. Cause it's like, it's just, there's nothing they can do about
Her running inner monologue during this walk is perfect. Because she's like, I told this guy, no, I don't want to ride his horse. And he's still, he's so annoying. And God, I wish I could see his hair. It's so good.
We get some talk of the affiliation and the business with the good man, which Josh, I feel like you already kind of covered, unless there's something else about that either you wanted to mention.
The general notice being that out here, they're removed from the fighting. So Hambury and the surrounding areas, think of Farson as a bandit. They're not aware of the movement that he has truly started or the horrors he's truly inflicting.
Yeah. News travels slowly.
Right.
And they don't get the full picture.
Exactly.
Roland knows Susan's father's name, though, because they were supposed to be meeting with Pat Delgado for their counting.
Because he was the head of the horses.
Yeah, he was the horse master.
Which seems to be a huge, powerful position in this barony because horsemanship is such a big deal.
We're going to get a lot about horses in sort of towards the end of this. But
they're kind of important.
Yes. So Susan doesn't really want to talk about her dad's death. It's still very fresh, and the mere mention of his name is enough to bring her to tears, and we'll see that with her aunt later on, who uses it against her constantly.
It's only like a year ago, right?
I think so, yeah.
And do we ever find out how long the Big Coffin Hunters have been in town? Did they arrive around that time or after?
I don't remember.
I can't remember how long exactly.
I mean, it's not
I think the time could line up, though. It hasn't been years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not. I'm not saying corruption just came to Hambury by any means, but I'm wondering where that timeline, because the town at some point became for Farson. Spoiler alert.
So we have a little foreshadowing, though, here that I didn't recognize on the first read about Pat's death. And it is very subtle because Roland asks her, which is a question like, I don't know. I would never think to ask somebody necessarily, especially if I just met them, was it an accident? And I may know it's a rougher world, but that comes up later too. And so I just thought that was neat. So we're wrapping up this conversation with, they're approaching the mailbox and Susan's like, hey, you're probably going to be invited to the mayor's house for dinner the next couple of nights. And you're likely going to see me there. And you just got to promise me that when we meet, it'll be for the first time. Because she's in a delicate position, and he tries to ask her some questions, and she's not giving anything away.
But I like that when he's like, "All right," when she pushes back on him asking, he's like, "All right, heard. First time we've ever met."
Yep.
Yeah, because Roland's a gentleman, and I want to kiss him.
We should mention too.
Who said that?
Wait, I think we all said it.
Roland hears a thinny for the first time.
Yeah.
And he was about to try to shoot it, I think, because he hears first. The wind dies down, and all of a sudden that sound is there. And Susan explains that in the summer, they quiet the thinny by feeding it burning brush. And the thinny is in a box canyon called Eyebolt. So
it's just such a neat piece of
world
building.
I can't wait till we get to
just
Eyebolt and
the casual mentioning of this, annually we burn the brush to stop the noise of the ghosts in the canyon is thrown away with such a casual bit that you're like, it's the world building that it's cool.
It's the same.
I'm bad at talking today, y'all.
It's said with the same effect that you'd say, every year we put a Christmas tree up in the middle of the square. Yeah.
But did either of you wince every time anybody talked about burning stuff?
Why would I?
No.
CM.
Oh, stop reading, Heath.
Okay. But I want to get to the happy ending.
I know.
Where they love each other forever.
Yeah. Where we get back to Topeka and she steps out from behind a rock. And goes, and I was here the whole time. Surprise.
That was how I wanted it to end as a teenager.
The amount of times I'm sure we will each beg for that to be true as we go.
Oh boy. Okay, so they are about to part ways and Susan does something.
Listeners who have not read this are very confused listening to us right now.
I bet they have some guesses.
They are about to part ways when Susan does something impulsive.
She gives him a smooch. It's cute, it's romantic, and Roland is like, "Oh, the whore wouldn't do it." I'm so glad.
Okay, it's sweeter than that.
No, I say it that way because it is so beautifully romantic. His reaction to this
kiss.
He's
glad. He's like, "Thank God she wouldn't let me kiss her because this was my first kiss."
It's so good.
When she kisses him and then steps back and he follows her and she has to push him gently away. I'm
like a
Yeah.
flower opening to the sun. It's
adorable.
So Roland spends the next 2 hours just riding back and forth across the drop before he finally makes his way back to Elaine and Cuthbert. I've been listening to it. It's pronounced Cuthbert in the book.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to go back and forth because I always thought that sounded dumb and I always said Cuthbert, and now it's like been ingrained in me. So
I lean on Cuthbert always.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a Midwestern thing.
It must be.
Bert. So this is where
Love that.
we, as the readers, find out who the three of them really are, if we didn't already kind of speculate on that. And then we meet a fourth. They have a lookout.
I love I'm literally wearing my rook skull earrings right
nice.
now.
I have a pair too.
They're awesome.
The second I saw bird skull earrings, I was like, yeah, I need those for Cuthbert.
Yeah, he has this bird skull that he keeps on the pommel of his saddle usually, and Roland fucking hates it because Roland hates laughter.
That's true.
Because Roland's a fuddy-duddy.
He really is.
So he does not tell them about this meeting, though, about meeting Susan, but he does reflect on why they're there, and that gives us a little more story about what's going on between Farson and the affiliation. And the things are escalating. Hundreds of people died in a nearby a barony Indri, it was. And they put the governor, mayor, and high sheriff's heads on the walls.
Okay, this episode's going to be 1,000 years long because I keep stopping you, Sam. I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine.
I mentioned before I was reading the graphic novels,
Yeah.
kind of when we did American Vampire. And they go through this whole story in the comics. And there is a scene that has Martin Broadcloak go to Farson at that siege. And there's a scene where he's standing holding a severed head and he throws it up in the air and he hits it with his sword like a baseball.
God.
And his soldiers are taking bets on how far he can knock the head. It's such a quick example of what we hear about Farson and just seeing dude's
Wild.
a monster. He is a savage, brutal monster.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We also come to understand that Roland found out that his father and his father's ka-tet of gunslingers weren't really concerned with Farson or the affiliation. There's something bigger happening, but we don't get any more of that.
Yeah, you get the sense that he is sending Roland away to keep him safe because being in Gilead right now is too dangerous, even for Roland, who's a fucking gunslinger now.
I think part of that is, though, because in this internal monologue that's sort of like a flashback to, we get this bit about Gilead being the last living city in Midworld. So, like, imagine how dangerous it would be during a time of this uprising to be the last living city. So it's also a reminder that even, this far out, a lot of the world has already moved on, like this far back in time even, because when we first meet Roland, it seems like this is something that is recent that's happening. It's like, wow, he was born into a world that was moving on. So when Susan comes home, her aunt is a little bit suspicious of her demeanor, but Susan has a really good excuse for being weird because of what she just went through with that exam and everything.
Yeah.
The Aunt Cordelia sucks.
She's such a bitch.
Yeah.
I hate her. I'm glad she's a virgin.
Yeah.
Who does she remind me of? Because she's this, I feel like this is a king archetype.
Bobby's sister.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Twinners. I'm calling it.
No,
also,
she's
Midnight
just
Mass. There's a character in that TV show.
Oh God,
the
what a good
lady.
show.
Yeah, the lady who's like this. So these two star-crossed lovers fall asleep, sort of consumed with thoughts of the other. It's very, very romantic.
And Susan, taking advantage of her newly
found
witch-based knowledge that she's totally cool with now because she met a cute boy.
A palate cleanser.
Yes.
Meanwhile, at the Traveler's Rest in Hambury, which is an inn owned by the Mayor Thorin's sister, Coral Thorin, we get to meet the antithesis of our ka-tet. The three Big Coffin Hunters. We have Eldred Jonas, Clay Reynolds, and Roy DePape. How would you characterize these three for our listeners?
Eldred Jonas is an old man who the audiobook, the voice is very close to Ria's, and it hurts my head.
Yeah, a lot of the Magus accents are indistinguishable from each other.
Sometimes sounds like Jonas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just so weird because it's not how I hear Jonas in my head, but it is exactly how he's described. He has a wavery, it's almost a withering voice, but you can tell he carries himself. Later, he carries himself like a knife. He is a walking weapon, and people sense that, and they give him a wide berth.
A knife with a limp.
A knife with a limp.
Which we find out something interesting about later. We might as well just mention now.
Yeah, a limp given to him by Court's father when he broke his leg and sent him west for failing to become a gunslinger.
Which is so cool, like, in all the scenes between him and Roland later, because you just know we have this exiled would-be gunslinger facing this youngest gunslinger ever. It's
an exiled gunslinger with knowledge of the doors to everywhere.
Yeah, with too much
we
knowledge.
Don't get a lot of
No,
we don't
we
get more
don't.
of that, and that's a crime.
And we also established that we don't really establish. It's hinted that his ka-tet were trained by him. It seems like he is the kind of person who will take in somebody and make them an apprentice gunslinger.
He's making his own band of quote-unquote gunslingers. So one of their watchmen spotted Roland, Elaine, and Cuthbert coming into town, and they're just babies, so no need to worry. Except Jonas, he's not worried, but he's like, hey, we still need to be watchful because we have 3 more months of some mysterious business he's not going to talk about for us right now. And we don't need some affiliation brats counting stuff and noticing things.
He says we can't put a bullet in their heads, but we need to give them a sore paw.
Yes. And it just tells us so quickly that suddenly this town is not so different or safe as compared to the rest of the world. This is just going to be bad timing for our 3. But overall, people are going to initially buy this cover story thinking the 3 boys are more like privileged brats serving out their punishment.
Oh, it's a bummer. They have to show their hand so fast.
I know. It's so cool, though.
Yeah.
So we find out that these 3 are pretty close to some important people in Magus when Jonas explains that he's going to go ahead and tell a man named, it's the Chancellor, Kimba Reimer, to have Sheriff Avery put the 3 boys up at the old Barquet Ranch. Because that's a safe distance from the oil patch and from the drop. And those are 2 places apparently they don't want them to be. So Jonas already has this plan. He is going to get cozy with Aunt Cordelia because he's labeling her like she's that kind of spinster who's got to know more than what she lets on. And so I'm going to see what information she can give me about this town. And if those 3 boys act up, that's where we get the part about how they're going to take care of that. So we're 2 nights later. Roland, Elaine, and Bert are officially in town. And they are welcomed by High Sheriff Avery, who I think it's safe to say, absolutely, we hate him.
Everyone in this town sucks but Susan.
I know. And Shimi.
Shimi, yes.
So how does this meeting go?
What I like about Avery is that from the moment you meet him, you know he has 0 real power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that though.
He doesn't know it.
No,
And
he's
that's
not
what
smart
makes
enough.
it extra adorable. That it's like Roland can tell it almost immediately though.
Yup. And it's very funny because he's like he's this big fat dude who is trying to be blustery and
Overly gracious and welcoming.
But
they're all bad actors this town.
Yes. And Roland is instantly like, oh, this guy hates us. This guy hates us. And what's more, he thinks we're idiots.
Well, but what's telling to Roland, though, is that he's pretending not to hate them so hard that it makes Roland suspicious. He's like, oh, okay, they don't want us here. Why?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just cool. It's so cool.
And it's a very funny dynamic of the sheriff is like, oh, we're putting one over
Yeah.
on them. Because, like, even later they meet and Roland is like, oh, that guy's not as drunk as he says he is.
Mhm.
That was one of the ranchers, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's, a lot of people in this town are doing the same thing
Well,
of
and-
they're being like, hey, partner. And then Roland's like, why are you being weird?
Well,
like, what is
it becomes
going on?
really important later, much later on, when they're asking, are you for the affiliation?
Yeah.
Like later as
Mhm.
they're doing their fake counting.
Mhm.
And they notice that most people are just like, we're so far removed from that. Like, we don't care. Like, it doesn't affect our lives. We're for survival and
Mhm.
thriving in our town. And, but in comparison to that,
Mhm.
we've got this core group who are fawning all over them. And so affiliation.
They're too hard for the affiliation.
So why is this town accept these people in power? So it's like just this another cue to them. And it's cool that Roland picks up on this because the three of them are so young. So
Yeah.
that there's a reason that he was able to pass this test and become a gunslinger at such a young age. It's more than just, that physical aspect. It's his mind.
Yeah.
I like that this interaction ends with them leaving and then a dumb deputy putting on a monocle.
We get some humor in this because Bert is our Eddie in
Yeah.
this time. And what comes of this, though, is the invitation to the mayor's dinner. And he's like, Avery's like, it starts at 7, but you should arrive at 8. So you can make kind of an entrance. And, we're just the whole town can meet you and give you a proper welcome. We also find out from the papers that Roland gives to Sheriff Avery explaining their position.
Mhm.
His father wrote them, that Roland's dad is a 29th generation descendant from the line of Arthur Eld, but it's on the sideline of that. So like basically a bastard line.
Mhm.
So that's
Agility.
kind of really, I don't know, just an interesting tidbit to get.
It's one of my favorite Dark Tower useless trivia pieces that I like to throw out to people that don't know the Dark Tower, just to be like, what's the craziest true sentence I can say about Dark Tower canon? And I like to say it's about a cowboy whose guns are made out of Excalibur because he's related to King Arthur. I don't know why I believe that, but I do believe that
That's
it's canon.
fucking great. I love that.
I cannot present you with information with proof that is not something I made up in my head.
Canon
So
now.
yeah, can't prove it wrong. Then it's
Add it
right.
to-
It's
add
been said on a podcast. Put it on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Friend of the show.
All right, we are at the mayor's.
Wikipedia's friend of the show. Yeah,
We're
no,
at
that
the
makes
Joke
sense.
mayor's
from our
house.
very first episode.
Expect me to remember a joke from episode 1.
Let's talk about the dinner at the mayor's house the next night, because a lot happens here.
I want to see this scene done as a movie, like just because it's described so beautifully. They're being paraded around, being introduced to everybody. They meet Rimmer, the Chancellor of Inventory, which Roland thinks was made up as a title just for them, which is so perfect. I wish I still worked in the hospital and supply chain. I would change my job title.
That'd be so awesome.
But the biggest moment is when the dinner table. They're seated around the table, and while they should be working, Roland is obsessed with why is Susan sitting next to the mayor. They must be cousins.
Yeah, and
It's
why
the
is
only explanation.
why is the mayor's wife not just not at the head of the table with her husband, but not also at the head of not also seated in another
Yes.
important place?
Yeah, she's just seated between like Cuthbert and some
Yeah.
rando.
Yeah.
And Roland notices that
And she was really nice. She's the only
Yeah.
other person he's met that he liked.
genuinely nice.
Yeah.
And she's kind of left out of the dinner. She's
Mhm.
not addressed. She's furniture, essentially. And Roland kind of clocks that treatment of her and is thrown off by it. But the hardest part to hear is the amount of people that just seeing him and meeting him say things like, man, Pat Delgado would have loved it if you'd have met his daughter. Like, it's crazy how much everybody's ready to invoke Pat Delgado's name at this party.
It's sad because the tone, there's this cover story for her bearing the mayor and heir, but nobody
Yeah,
buys
everybody
that.
knows.
Yeah, it's more shameful than her aunt has tried to convince her that it. And it's not her fault. She shouldn't be ashamed. But
And with the horse talk, this is where we get into a lot of the horse business of it, because the ranchers are bragging about, we've been doing so well, you know, only one in every so many is born with an extra limb or with their guts on the outside, blah, 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 blah. And then when Roland says something about the amount of horses, they start being like, well, it's been a bad year for horses, you know?
Yeah,
forget everything I said.
Dodgy.
Yeah.
And like trying to downplay. They are say, oh, things are going so well, but also upplaying mutants and like the, you know, things are going well, but
they're
not
bad liars.
that great.
Yeah.
And they're, like you said earlier, Josh, they're faking being drunk. So everybody's clocking this, though, which is cool to see.
And remind me, who breaks the news to Roland?
Oh, it's the...
Is it Cordelia?
Yeah.
It's got to be Cordelia.
No, it's the mayor's sister.
Yeah, Coral.
Coral. I mix up their names, yeah.
I may have thought they were the same character.
Yeah,
I got confused a few times with that. But yeah,
they could have been one character.
Roland is seated next to her, and he finally says the words that hurt our hearts. He's like, oh, is she the mayor's niece?
And she goes, oh, nope, it's his side wife. Sheevan, I think it was the phrase. It was like an honorable whore.
And then it's like, oh, her father would be rolling in his grave. And meanwhile, we've been getting Susan talking about how her aunt keeps bringing up her dad, like, you know, you're do this for your dad and everything we've lost. And because we find out later they took her aunt in.
Yes.
When she was
unmarried for past marriage time.
Yeah,
whatever
we
the
can see
society
why.
used. Yeah,
Jeez. So as Roland gets this shocking information, something happens at the head of the table and everybody's laughing and Susan is laughing and he looks at her and he sees her joyful laugh and he looks down at Olive, who suddenly looks just like his mother and sees her pain and heartbreak. And he thinks if he had his guns on him, he could put a bullet right through Susan's treacherous heart.
Followed immediately with, who the fuck are you trying to kid, dude?
And also the thought of, man, that could have been a kindness.
Oh, the foreshadowing is so delicious and terrible. The evening ends in a dance when Roland and Susan eventually come face to face and she's like, hey, thanks so much for being cool about all this.
No problem, slut.
Basically, that's a conversation.
That's essentially how coldly he throws it back at her.
And she's like, what the hell? And before they can finish that conversation, the dance has ended. They can't be seen talking.
Yeah.
Because her aunt's already like, why are you looking at that boy? Like
why are you looking at that
she
very
may be
handsome
a virgin,
boy?
but she can see the chemistry flying.
And you also feel so bad for Roland in that moment because you know it's just he's poor stupid boy who got his feelings hurt and he doesn't mean it. But that's just what an unknowingly how cruel
it's
to
not
say
a
to her with what she's
thing
dealing
to
with.
Say either. Just let me put that out there for all the guys.
I said it very cruelly. She's like says like thank you for
your discretion and propriety.
And he's like, I'm surprised you know the words.
It's
and
scathing.
Like,
yeah.
It's unnecessarily cruel.
It's a high class insult.
It really is. I think it's time we get to the shimmy scene.
So
excited.
So cool.
My note for this was we get the first badass scene.
Oh my God.
Take it away. Like
it rules. Okay, so there is remind me the name of the local bar.
Traveler's Rest.
Traveler's Rest, which they describe as, being pretty rowdy sometimes, but not particularly so. And we get a walkthrough of this bar and there's music and a lady giving double hand jobs in a corner, and
she's very skilled.
And there are two hard men drinking in a corner alone that people are not fucking with or going near, because not only do they look like trouble, they look like they are two trouble people who had a shitty day. Because they had spent the day doing busy work for Jonas. Because
he was at dinner.
So it is DePape and the other one.
Reynolds,
thank you. And as they are drinking, one of them gets up and is walking across the bar. And the bar boy a man named Shimi, who is of special needs, obviously, but friendly, and whose job is to go around the bar and collect the camel piss, which is just dumping every half-drank drink into a big bottle that people can drink out of.
I hate it.
It sucks.
The fact that they describe it and then he says by the end of the night he rarely
It's
has
empty.
any camel piss left
Oh,
over.
yes.
The best
They're like,
detail.
it's terrible unless you're foolhardy, but we sell out. But he's walking around and he trips or is tripped.
He's tripped, but not. I don't think it was intentional. Yeah.
But it does cause him to trip and upturn a bucket full of swill, dousing DePape from the knees down.
Mhm.
And DePape turns around and decides this motherfucker is not leaving this bar alive.
And the whole bar notices it too. It's
Mhm.
record scratch, piano player stops playing, everyone quietly
The bartender
watches.
hides.
Yeah.
I-
The hand
it
jobs
does
don't stop though.
Try to help though, because he's like, man, Shimi's a good
Yes.
kid. Could even be my kid, possibly.
knows?
I like him. He's always got a smile for everybody. He makes everybody feel good.
Mm.
I have to at least try to do something. But there's nothing to be done. So he's like, you're going to lick my boots clean. And then he thinks to himself, and if I like it, maybe I'll have my favorite whore do it later.
My 15-year-old whore.
Yikes. Thankfully, that dude gets what he deserves when just as Shimi is crying and about to follow through, there's laughter.
Oh,
And
I
a guy
love
going,
this.
nah, you shouldn't do that. I don't like that. It is none other than the coolest Stephen King character ever created. The fact that we do not have 10 books, Holly Gibney style, about Cuthbert Allgood is the biggest crime in literature.
Can I do the line?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's so good. Because he stops him and he's like, as delightful as I love a good prank. The fact that like we don't know what kind of germs and animal stuff is on your boots, the diseases that could come from him licking your boots, the mind quails, absolutely quails. And it's so good. I think about that line all the time.
I just think about him wearing the rook skull around his neck with the chain like through the eyes.
And
It's
everybody's
so
like,
cool.
what a gaudy necklace. Why is that
Yes.
kid wearing that weird necklace?
And
he's disarming
instantly-
because he's funny and
Yes.
goofy.
And instantly, DePape is like thrown off. 'cause
Well,
he's
and
like,
he's also like, I guess two kids are dying tonight.
I can't believe I have to murder 2 people right now. Oh, well. But as he's going for his gun, he notices that Cuthbert is not unarmed.
He's got a slingshot with a metal ball bearing in
Oh,
it.
yeah, because they don't have their guns out. They've hidden them.
Mhm.
So I think Roland has a crossbow. I
Yeah,
don't remember
Roland has a
what
bow.
Elaine has.
I think he has
Galen
a
has a
longbow
knife.
and a lance.
Yes.
And yeah, they have some weapons and something wrapped in a bedroll that we don't know about yet.
Mhm.
But yeah, he has the draw on him, and there's a bit of a standoff. The whole time DePape sees Reynolds flanking.
Mhm.
So he's like, easy, no problem. And when Reynolds gets the drop, he almost immediately is told no.
Well,
Well,
before
yeah.
Reynolds gets the drop,
Oh, did I miss?
yeah, DePape says, "I'm going to give you one chance to lower your weapon and walk away." And Cuthbert says, "I appreciate my one chance," and lets the ball fly and crushes his second
That's-
finger.
Yes.
And before he can react, he already has another one reloaded and has the draw on him again.
Yeah, as DePape's gun gets kicked away
Mhm.
by someone in
someone.
the crowd who, quote, would never have said so that day, but there were dozens of people who, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So he has the drop,
Mhm.
and then Reynolds has the drop, and he's like, drop the thing. And he's like, nah, I don't think so. You can shoot me in the back of the head, but it's just going to make me
Shoot
loose
your
this
friend.
ball.
Yeah.
And it's gonna go in his goddamn head. So no. And they're both like, the Big Coffin Hunters are just looking at each other like,
They don't know what to do anymore.
this isn't supposed to be happening this way.
Oh, it's okay though.
Because then Aelin arrives with a knife around Reynolds' throat.
But it's okay, though.
Because Jonas has a gun at the back of Aylin's head.
But it's okay, though.
Roland had been wandering by, like, not even doing
He was
anything.
thinking about Susan.
Yeah, he was
He
just
was
like,
brooding.
girls are pretty.
He
Did
was
I hear a
brooding, yeah.
gun?
He sees Jonas like being
Yeah.
sneaky.
He sees Jonas running through the woods like a witch running to her house, and he follows him because he's like, oh, if there's trouble,
My friends are
my
in
friends
it.
could be there. And so he runs and puts a knife.
It's so perfect though, because
It's
what
so-
the line Jonas is in the middle of giving, because he's like, "All right, boys, this is it. I've got the drop on you. Got the drop on you've got the. We all know, but we're the Big Coffin Hunters, and we walk away from this, not you. It's already done." And there's nothing you can. Oh,
No.
There is a knife to the center of his back, and Roland whispers completely without emotion,
it's so
put it down or this goes in your heart. No second warnings. Put it down or you're dead.
And when Jonas hears that there's no emotion, he's like, oh, I'm dealing with something here. And it's funny because his thought right before that was, if I don't get a handle on the situation now, we are fucked.
And so they have this very intense standoff, and luckily, Sheriff Avery's there to solve it. This is the best scene.
Yes.
Because then the sheriff takes them all to the town gathering hall,
And makes them sit
proceed-
across from each other.
and the whole scene, he is absolutely, in his mind, controlling that conversation, and everyone else in the room is not listening.
But
This
he's
dude
also
is-
terrified.
He is the most Officer Dogberry. Like, this is straight from Much Ado. He is
Yes.
a blustery dumbass who believes he is in charge and is sitting there with 6 of the most dangerous people in the world. And he's like, yeah, now shake hands.
Yeah, you can't leave here until you apologize to each other and shake hands.
Yeah, as though he had any authority.
But he doesn't, but the situation gives him a leg up.
The ritual of finishing the conflict was what they needed to all walk away. And so they do. And the Big Coffin Hunters have a little chat on their way home, though.
Yeah, and Jonas about knocks to Pape into the canyon for
It's
fucking up. And then he's like,
Yeah.
you know what, though?
We learned something.
Yeah, and I have to thank you for that. Although you're going to have to go on this mission because you're still the catalyst of this.
and he sends them on whatever back trail he can find for Will Dearborn and his friends, because he suspects something.
And he says, keep asking, keep writing until you find the information that will make me satisfied. Which, what a instruction
Right.
to receive. So we jump 3 weeks ahead, and Susan is having another bad day. All her days are bad because of her aunt.
Yup. The day-to-day parts of the life of a horse girl in Magus, and it's so good. I love, as much as Cordelia sucks, I love the scenes between them because Susan doesn't cow to her. She hates her and like will be like very yes aunt when she needs to be, but she's also this firecracker teenager who's like, I openly hate you. It's great.
Well, Susan throws it in her face.
Yeah.
The note I make is Cordelia slaps Susan when she calls it like she sees it. And because she's basically saying, now that I understand the consequences of everything, because she's also
Well, Cordelia wants her to be grateful and
Yes.
not moping around.
right. But what Cordelia doesn't know is that Susan is in love. You know, like this is Susan hasn't quite realized she's all the way there yet, but it's all there's a reason for emotional conflict with this decision now that she can't get out of. And the one person she has in her life to turn to for support is the person who wants her to get it done faster because she thinks that Susan will be gone and she'll be able to take the house and take
anticipating
everything.
having a whole summer to herself. So the 3-month thing really pissed her off.
And she's
she
going to get
keeps
money.
evoking Pat's name and saying, oh, your dad would be so horrified if we got turned out. And basically,
Mhm.
this is to save their livelihood and buy back some of their land and their property and their horses that they had to sell to survive after Pat was
Yeah, they are
accidentally
big
died.
air quotes because once again, they were never Cordelia's.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. She was taken in as a kindness and is just a bitch the whole time. So we also find out that earlier that week, Shimi paid Susan a visit. So why did he stop by?
To bring her flowers. He didn't remember who gave him the flowers, though, no matter how much Cordelia asks. So I don't remember. I just got these flowers and I was told to bring them here. And there's a letter that is Roland apologizing for what he said and saying, meet me out at the drop. Don't want to talk in person. Give a letter to Shimi. He can be trusted. And she sends a rejection.
Yeah, she says it wouldn't be proper.
Yeah. And then goes out anyway. Which I love.
It's her drop.
Yeah.
Kind of. So she's reflecting on all of this. She realizes that she's not the only one on her drop. She said it's
She won't be for long.
Will be damned. Jeez, to you, Dearborn. What did you guys think of this apology? Because he apologizes to her face now.
It's so funny because as much as this isn't Roland, it's still Roland.
Yeah.
And that apology feels so Roland.
Yes. The whole conversation feels so Roland.
He wants to make sure. Roland is not a strong communicator, but you can tell when he wants to make sure he is not misunderstood. It is so important to him because he'll say too many words. And that's kind of what this is a rambly apology of, I don't know what came over me. It was brash. It was uncalled for. I don't know your situation. I'm genuinely... And apologizing for all the right reasons.
Yeah,
which
great
is the
apology.
most important thing.
We realized, though, 3 times, in fact, during this conversation, as I mentioned last episode, Susan even realizes, like, Roland, man, not a very funny guy. Not one with a real sense of humor he is. But at least he doesn't grab your boobs without your permission, which is what Mayor Thorin did after the dinner before she got home.
Oh, I forgot about the grope.
Yeah. After getting all the mushy stuff out of the way, Roland is down to business. He's like, are you for the affiliation? And
she's like, what the fuck?
It's such a quick turn.
I love you. I want you to know that deep within
like
my
this
soul.
Passionate apology.
I've been thinking about you nonstop. All I can think about is getting your heart back. So I have to ask you, are you for the affiliation?
Listen, I got to ask people about politics before I agree to a date.
You know what?
So
Yeah, I get that. I get it.
Predicting the future. So they start to talk about how many horses are on the drop and things aren't really making a whole lot of sense. And Susan is starting to realize this for the first time. He's also a little cold to her, I felt like, when she brings up her dead dad. And it made me, it reminded me, oh, this is Roland.
I don't think it was cold.
I think it's just matter of fact. And it's, I saw it
correct.
as...
It is matter of fact to me. That's fucking cold.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't think...
He wasn't
I also
trying.
don't think it was matter of fact.
It wasn't his intent, but it was stated so blatantly.
Interesting. So my read on that was...
Well, he's like, yeah, he's dead, though.
My read on it was, no, he's dead, though. That's like...
Oh, yeah. No, the point what he was trying to make is saying...
He's telling her...
He was in a position of power and someone is lying and trying to hide things.
I know, but he does it so harshly to a 16-year-old girl who cries.
Fair.
The moment her dad's name is mentioned, right after saying, I'm so sorry, I love you.
Yeah.
You could do it nicer.
That's fair.
Roland
I don't
is
know
just
what
not
the
very smooth sometimes.
I don't know what the tactful way to be like, hey, have you considered your dad was murdered? Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Well,
that's pretty good. Yeah,
you can preface it by saying, I'm going to ask you a personal and difficult question, and I'm sorry, but
that's good advice.
Yeah.
I will keep that in mind in case I ever have to ask a girl if she has considered her dad was murdered,
accidental or not. Okay, because all of our darkest fantasies about the books we read are going to come true in real life.
I need to ask more people how their dads died.
No.
No?
No.
Is that the wrong lesson?
Yeah.
Am I taking the wrong? All right.
So the two of them agree that
The
there's
lesson of
about
this book is I like horses.
1,000 horses, and the number's a lot less than what
And
the ranchers
oxen.
said.
Which is unheard
Surprise
of.
oxen.
Surprise supplies, as we'll come to find out
Mm-hmm.
as the weeks pass and they continue to count.
They were, by Susan's estimate, it was like 1,200 horses that are all out there. And she says none of them are muties. None of them are
Mhm.
born weird. And Roland, I think when he does the math back, it was told there were 400 rideable horses total.
Mhm.
Way, way off those
Yeah.
numbers. Susan kind of freaks out at this point. She starts crying about how nothing makes sense, crying about her situation.
I'm so sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt you, but we talked about how Pat died, right? We did cover
We did
Rhea
mention
said he
his-
got squished by his horse.
Yeah.
and that the reason we know this is because a very loyal longtime friend was there who saw it.
Mhm.
Hooky.
Yes.
And I just want to put that out there
Yeah.
before
Yep.
we
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she starts crying because she's upset, and Roland starts kissing her to make her feel better, which is the beginning of them trying to stay away from each other and doing a really bad job of it at every turn. And she says, if you love me, because he tells her, I got so upset because I love you, like already, it's just done. And, she says, if you love me, stay away. And he's like, okay, just kiss me again. She's like, sure. So she does. And his passion is cooled, though, for a minute because he starts to relate Susan's situation to his mother's. So he's like, I could do to Susan what Martin did to my mom.
It's true.
He
You're allowed
thinks about you're allowed to. He thinks about how he left things with his mom several times. I didn't realize how much more of the fallout from Gabrielle that we get in
Mhm.
this. I forgot that in my recollection, when he decided she was dead to him, that was it. And I forgot how much it comes back in. It reflects kind of his treatment of other women at this point.
It takes him a while he's still processing this thing that happened too. So they agree to part ways and stay away from each other.
Oh, he's finally being able to see his mom as a victim.
Yeah,
That's
later
what
he
the
has
door
a
that's
thought
opening.
she wasn't so much a sinner as sinned against,
Yeah.
but we don't get
Which,
more.
Sure.
duh.
Yeah.
But,
But like,
you
no,
know,
my
he's learning.
brain, yeah.
Yeah. While
I
Roland
was saying duh to Roland, not you.
While Roland is having his forbidden encounter with Susan, Bert and Elaine have been counting nets. And we get this brief
I
scene.
love this scene.
Yeah,
This is
you
one of
wanna
my
go
favorite
for it.
scenes because is this a scene with the hair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is Roland comes and he finds his two friends and they're like catching him up and he's like, they're basically like, we're running out of shit to count.
Mhm.
Like, we're going to get to a point where if we start counting stuff, we're going to start finding stuff
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Like, we're running out of busy work. What do we do? And they have this talk. Honestly, the talk is not the reason. I
well,
love
they
the
get
scene.
a message, a pigeon carrier.
That's right. They get a pigeon carrier that's like, hey,
How's it
do
going?
you know, have you seen anything strange? And Roland's like, nah, send
They're
back.
like, everything we've seen is strange. but they
because-
can't really articulate that.
Yeah, there's nothing concrete.
Mhm.
It is all vibes
Mhm.
right
One
now.
thinny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's like sending a note back saying, still looking, we'll report back when we have something more solid. But the reason I love this scene is not only because it's a great scene, the chemistry between Roland and Cuthbert and Elaine
Yeah.
is so good. I love the three of them.
I do too.
Yeah.
Elaine, even we barely have talked about him, but he's described as this very large boy that people, when they see him, think he's a dullard because he has this round face and kind of a slack affect. But he's also the guy that remembers all the names, and he's very
Sharp, yeah.
intuitive.
He's a listener. He's
Yes.
quiet. And he
Um,
has the shining.
So yeah, the whole scene between them is great. But the end is as they're going through this, at one point Roland turns his back and Cuthbert, so quickly and agilely that he does not notice, picks something off of Roland's jacket and holds it up to Elaine. And they both see that it is a golden blonde hair.
Actually, it's Elaine who plucks it. He's the one who
okay.
notices.
Backwards.
Yeah.
That's right. Elaine plucks it, and Cuthbert's like, "Oh damn, I don't even know if I could have done that."
Yeah,
that
and they just like
fast."
make eye contact, and it's all that needs to be said.
No, that's not all that, because he sees the hair. They both are like, we know who the only person whose hair that can belong to, and Cuthbert mimes shooting himself in the head with a big smile on his face.
Because they look dismayed and amused.
That is the biggest, like, just dudes being dudes.
Yeah.
That's the biggest. Anytime your best friend gets their first like girlfriend or boyfriend, you're like, oh, and it's everything's a nightmare forever. Now.
It is like 3 sentences or something, and it reminds you that A, these dudes are just like high school kids.
Yeah.
And B, that they're all just best friends.
Yeah.
And I just want them to hang out and have a good time.
We're going to jump now 400 miles away in Ritzy briefly, where Roy DePape finally gets that information he has been looking for when he intimidates an old man and then kills him afterwards instead of buying him the drink or giving him the medal he promised. He's just a dick.
Evil for evil's sake.
Yeah.
And before he rides back, he sees a bird and tries to take a shot at it. And it grazes it a little bit.
But now he knows that they are, in fact, dealing with gunslingers, because in that conversation afterwards, they were like, that seem like gunslingers to you guys?
Yeah.
No, that couldn't be.
The old man says, I know for a fact the one that had a name is Deerbur or Deer something. He is from the line of Eld himself, because I saw the face of his father in him.
And so he knows.
And he's like, all right, game on.
So Roland, Elaine, and Cuthbert visit the Thinny and end up sticking around until the Peddler's Moon comes out. Which one of you want to describe this insane thing?
First, I want to mention that this isn't the first time we've seen the Peddler's Moon.
Where did we see it before?
Ooh.
I'm trying to think if they have described, because the Peddler is Leland Gaunt.
Oh!
They describe
at the end of Needful Things when he turns into the weird little goblin man and flies off.
He flies to the moon.
He goes to the moon. This is the second thing this episode that I do not have the confirmation.
Prove Eve wrong.
But this is just a thing that has been canon in my head for years. So I believe
Leland Gaunt is in the Peddler's Moon.
That's so cool.
That's rad.
But this Thinny is also rad.
Yes.
It calls to them. It asks Roland to jump in.
It almost makes Elaine jump in.
Yeah.
And they notice just it's like a chimney, just how tall and narrow, or deep, I should say, tall if you're in it, and how deep and narrow it is. And they can see there's a lot of brush. It's still green right now, but they're preparing for when they're going to burn that in the fall to quiet it down. And there's also something in it that I did not expect. Freaked me out for our ka-tet hearing this story in a Thinny.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking. I was like, they keep saying, oh, the things that go into it don't come back out. It's hungry, whatever it is. And I'm like, weren't our main characters just walking through a Thinny?
But they're walking through a horizontal Thinny. Like,
okay.
As opposed to like a gateway. Like,
I guess.
It's kind of going back to Little God Swamp. You're trekking through it. You're not, if you went all the way down, you might not come. If you tripped and fell down, you might not be able to stand back up. You might be somewhere else because you're all the way somewhere.
The slithering silver thing that eats birds that's in the Thinny.
Yeah.
Like, are there more of those?
I think that's the Thinny. I don't know if that's something in the Thinny.
Is that like the pearl and the clam?
The gestures.
I'm like making circular gestures at my torso where the pearl is. Hey, I could have gone.
Where I keep my pearl.
I could have gone glowing orb. I kept it clean.
What I thought you were
kept it clean. There's trying to be clean.
The way it's described is there's
these
are not
like sexual at all. Sorry.
They are an aphrodisiac. No, those are oysters. What is happening?
You just said my claim's an aphrodisiac. I think. Sorry. to go
This
home.
episode's
I have to go
already
home. I am
too
home.
long.
It's so horny. This whole book.
So the thinny is described as having these like wisps of smoke with what look like hands at the end. So
Like
I didn't
tentacles
know.
grasping.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was supposed to be like a literal thing in the thinny or if it was the thinny itself.
I don't know. Either are cool.
Yeah, they're both scary.
Well, my read on it is they talk about that. I think Rhea or someone basically. There's a reference to Eyebolt. The thinny and Eyebolt cannon won't grow out of the canyon in their lifetime. And so those tendrils is it growing. That's how was my representation of it's constantly reaching out. So when it got something, it could grab it, pulled it in. If anything gets within pulling distance, like it's trying to pull itself further into our world.
It's cool.
It's just, it's cool. And that's all we get of it for now. On their way back, they talk about how they're running out of safe things to count. And they can only look stupid for so much longer before they can't do that anymore. And Roland thinks to himself, well, geez, like the only option left is to ask Susan for help. So I'm going to have to see her.
They
again.
both like look at each other, do the slow turn.
Because when they get back, they have a pigeon waiting for them. And we don't get to see what the message is, but it's reading that message that it pieces together something for Roland. He's like, I have to meet her at the sit-go tonight. That has to happen.
And then it's described that in the cold silver light of the peddler's moon, he smiled. It just makes his smile seem ominous. So we are with Susan. She gets a gift from the mayor, although calling it a gift is not accurate because it's
her own horse.
It is how Aunt Cord is trying to get her to think of it, though. And Susan now has to go into town to get some horseshoes where she accidentally bumps into Elaine.
She is headed to the blacksmiths because they go way back at Hooky, that longtime friend of her dad's, and she remarks that there are no holes in his roof.
Yeah, he's doing real well.
Yeah, he must. The blacksmith work must be pretty good
for their 400 horses.
Yes.
And this is where she runs into somebody and he's like, oh, miss, I'm so sorry. I almost knocked you down, even though it was like barely a bump, and he's brushing off her shoulders. Yeah. And it's Elaine, and he slips her something, and she's like, she has this instinct to kiss him and say, give that to Roland and tell him I love him.
Right.
And then she imagines him going to Roland and giving him a big smooch and saying, that's from Susan Delgado and she loves you. And starts giggling out loud to him. I just thought that was very cute. And when she gets home, she sees that it's Roland asking her to meet, please. And the word please just kills her. But she's going to stay strong. I mean, she's going to grapple with it, but she's trying to honor her promise. Yeah. So she eventually gets a note to Bert to give to Roland. We're going to skip ahead a little bit because it's just more of them trying to stay away from each other. And it's really not too long after this where she's like, actually, okay, no, we can meet.
In the grove, the orange grove by the sit-go is where they plan to meet up.
We skip over a really cute scene where Shimi's like, do you know about my three best friends?
Yeah.
Bird is my first best friend. It's very cute. So they are going to, as you said, meet at the orange grove. Let's talk about how this scene unfolds. Luckily, there's a lookout, but not too close.
Yeah. When he sees the sit-go, he refers to it as an open-air haunted house, which I fucking love.
Yeah.
And Susan is trying to figure out, of all the places that he wanted to meet, why here, because she thinks this is about them solely. And, and then he's explaining, look, I'm going to tell you everything. I'm showing you my cards. I'm trusting you with my life.
In between them kissing and then like, we can't. And then,
It's all very good.
Yeah. He's like, no, we have to focus on work. So they go down and talking about the oil fields and the pumps. And she's saying that, these lines have been dry for years. We can't turn some of these off. That's the only reason they're still going.
Yeah, there's electricity currents.
And Roland touches one of the pipes and it's slick with oil. So they start investigating the oil fields and they see tracks, like something heavy has been brought through. And that's when Roland shares that there are oxen. And even Susan's like, there's fucking oxen?
Yeah,
Which is not. Yeah, insane. The people wouldn't know that.
And Roland goes full gunslinger and just looks down. And he's like, "Hey, Reynolds was here." And
She's like,
it
"What
scares
witchcraft
her.
is this?"
She gets scared. She's like, "Witch, yeah,
I was
wizard,
scared after meeting Rhea and then someone else.
warlock. How do you know?" And he's like, "It's just trailcraft." While smirking and being handsome.
Right. And
Yep.
she explains all that to her. And that's when she's finally like, "Who the fuck are you?" And he says, "My name is Roland. I'm a gunslinger."
I love he says mostly who I say I am.
Yeah.
I love that.
She likes his real name better. I love that. I
Yes.
like Will Dearborn, though.
Yeah.
It's like,
And Susan thinks to herself, "I kept pushing Ka, like thinking this is Ka away the whole time. But you know what? Ka says,
kiss him.
get in this pussy."
You are right, though.
Yeah, I am. Because she is the one, and she calls out to the witch to stop looking at them.
Okay, you're
which was
making
amazing.
out with the chick, and she breaks it off and screams at a witch.
I
extra
marry
turned
her
on.
the next
Yeah.
day.
Still put it in.
Yeah, I propose on the spot.
Mhm.
I'm like,
And we like cut to Rhea,
Which
who
is so
was
gross.
watching,
Yeah, she was
and then
watching.
it goes dark, and she's like, "Fuck!"
it cuts to Rhea and she's like, "I've seen more people have sex.
Well, like they're the first two
This-
to do it.
Yeah.
This isn't even the most people I've ever watched
That
at
was my
once."
favorite part of that.
Yeah.
Well, she's only interested in watching what Susan does.
After she loses her virginity.
We're not going to quite get to that yet because they're still being good, sort of.
Yes.
They wrap up their business and make their way back to their horses. They
Well,
start.
the discovery after they find out where the oxen have been going. They
Who
find,
cares? This is a love story.
they find that the tankers that originally there had been, Susan thought there were more, they've
Mhm.
been moved and filled and are being hidden with branches that were cut off of trees nearby. And it's giving all of this, the clues are starting to fall into place that there is a bigger secret
They're
than the
preparing
horses.
for something,
Yes.
it seems like.
And Roland even says, if you're not using this oil, there's no reason that the good man at least doesn't think he has a way to use it. And if he could get one of those machines working, he could lead us into a battle where he kills 10,000 of our soldiers
Mhm.
and we lose the war.
Finally, there's something to pigeon back about. So as they're making their way back to their horses, wrapping up their business, they start making out again. And Susan's like, fuck it, like you said earlier. But the words she uses are words that haunt Roland to this day. And they are the words, "If you love me, then love me." And he's like, yes and no. And she gets upset and she takes off only to realize after she's ridden away that the wetness
had
on
been
her
crying
cheeks,
too.
was from his tears too. And we are with Susan 2 horrible weeks later to walk into what felt like a trap.
This
Yes.
also, this feels like a different story entirely. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this section is, oh.
It's basically, listeners, it's a scene of her having to go to the mayor's house because one of her Reap Day dresses, there's like 30 of them,
Dog
got
tore it apart or
damaged. Yeah.
something.
And not even that bad,
Yeah.
which is suspicious.
See, that's why I'm like, was this a
It
trap?
feels like a setup.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the person helping her has to go get something for the sewing. And as soon as she leaves, there's Mayor Thorin basically dry humping her and groping her to completion. And she'd been thinking about Will. And so when he first came up behind her,
Yeah.
she relaxed into him. It's upsetting to read about.
It sucks.
It's so very effective. And she refers to it, I think, later as like she realizes he's going to keep doing these little thefts of her virginity. And she's like, at this point, she's just so miserable. She comes home understandably upset about being dry humped through a wall practically. He was very aggressive.
Yeah.
Not kind to her at all.
No.
Like she was just a tool.
She
which is what
wasn't
is.
even a person.
Yeah. And her aunt's like, oh, okay. So you got dry humped and your boobs got squeezed.
My
Yeah.
God. This, when she's like, these things happen.
Fucking Christ.
And Susan's response is to scream, how the fuck would you know? I was like standing up, running around my room,
Yeah.
like, oh, fuck. Yeah.
And her aunt's like, I may be a virgin, but I've been dry humped and groped
I've been trying
Yeah,
plenty.
by a man I wasn't interested in, and he was like 50 years older than
You got
me,
her.
whose dad used to bring me around him when I was a child.
Gross.
So there's no kindness or understanding there. I think her aunt is a narcissist. She just doesn't,
Absolutely.
she only cares about what's happening insofar as it affects her, not what's happening to Susan.
For sure.
And it's even more sad when Susan thinks, like, my aunt's not this, like, horrible ogre of a person. She's just a scared lady. I'm like, no, she's a narcissist and she sucks shit big time.
Mhm.
We haven't been shown one scrap of sympathy or kindness. So Susan's like, screw this. She goes off riding. Thank God, though, because who does she bump into?
Well,
Who could have thought?
And she doesn't even look to see who it is because she's just like sitting on the drop crying, sobbing, and she screams, whoever you are, go away, leave me alone. And he's alarmed by the state she's in, and he starts kissing her tears away, and he's like, say it again, and I will. And she does, and he does.
I don't know if that's a threat or a promise. Which
Thromus?
a thromus?
We're going to give these two some privacy. The camera pans slowly away as they remove their clothes. Imagine curtains blowing serenely in the wind.
Perfect.
Something nice like that. Oh, but the curtains are pink. Softly glowing pink.
So a
because
few
Rhea
interspersed
is
cuts of
watching.
like. Oh. Okay, that's good. I was gonna say a few interspersed cuts of Susan like under a sheet, smiling serenely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to plow like 3 times. We don't have to talk about it. But they're being watched. And to go from like what should be this beautiful moment between these two people who love each other to the terrifying witch woman watching them foreshadows to us, the reader, this isn't good. Nothing good is going to happen.
No. Also they had sex and then they were doomed line.
Yeah, well, and there's a line too about Roland, like they fall asleep, and it's the last good sleep he would have for the rest of his life. And she watches them drift off, and she's
Oh my
like,
God.
"Oh,
I'm sorry. It occurred to me how fucking terrifying that
Yeah,
sentence is. Oh my God. Can you imagine if someone said to you, hey, that sleep you had, that looked really good. That's the best sleep you'll have for the rest of your
Okay,
life. I'd be like, what's the point of going
that
on?
knowledge is like being told about the null. Never tell me.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Never
know.
tell me.
Yeah,
It'll
I don't
ruin
need
my
to know.
life.
Okay, so Rhea's getting really excited because she's like, "Ooh, the thing I did is going to happen." And then Musty jumps into her lap and almost gets killed in response. Oh, this is where we find out too that the pink orb is sucking the life out of her.
Yeah, she looks
is-
the age she probably
Yeah,
is.
it's like zapping her life force. And she's like, you know what, though? That's cool because I'm going to hear about it all around town later. The ball goes dead, and now we find out what Rhea told Susan to do all those weeks ago underneath the kissing moon.
It's a classic witch trap. The way it was supposed to work, with the way Rhea had planned it, is that after Mayor Thorin had sex with her, she would get up, presumably go to the bathroom and shave her head, and he would wake up next to a bald Gilly, and that would be humiliating. And he wouldn't have fun with his toy anymore because she wasn't as pretty.
She still has boobs, so I don't think he would have
Yeah,
cared.
I've seen bald women. I don't see what what his problem should be.
That's why I was relieved because I mean that that's
why we've made such a big deal about her blonde hair.
I had taken it so dark that I was like, oh, thank God, because I thought she was supposed to kill him after, but since she lost her virginity with Roland, I thought she was going to try to kill him.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it just seemed like a disaster.
Yeah, she nudely sleepwalks to a river and finds a sharp rock and prepares to start cutting her hair.
And starts to.
Yeah, starts
cut her
to.
hair.
Gets a few strands out before Roland is able to show up. And
He
cannot physically restrain her. And when he has a moment where the pull relaxes a little and he like almost snaps her wrist. In fact, he has to check later to make sure. But that's Roland. They saw the opportunity. He went, it brought her back. And then he's like, wait here, goes back to his stuff and gets a bullet and comes back and walks the bullet.
Asks her for her permission, which is so important.
Yeah.
Finally, somebody does something to Susan with her permission.
And she cannot tell him what it was. It's just pink. when she tries to think of what she was told, it's pink.
She tells him everything else, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that Roland immediately is like, this is woman's doing. This is not because
A guy
it is
wouldn't care.
yeah. It's the type of revenge it is, and the hatred Rhea has for Susan. It hurts everybody and brings her joy, and it's because it's a vanity thing. He's like, it must be a woman's trap.
He does find out what Rhea did to her, though, the other thing, and he's like clenches his fist like she's dead.
Yeah.
They fortunately can braid Susan's hair in a way that'll hide the missing chunk that she cut out. She was also like starting to go for her eye when he was trying to stop her. It made it seem like that's the So it seemed like it disrupting
we
the
assumed that it was just her hair.
That's
How do we know that it wasn't
like a
disfigure
trap.
your face?
Yeah. While this is happening, Aunt Cord is leaving the grocery store, and she happens to run into Jonas.
Weird.
He's so handsome, and he's like, "Can I walk with you and carry your groceries?"
Can I walk with you and carry your groceries?
That's what it sounds
Yeah.
like.
Pretty
coming
good.
out of him.
Thank you.
And she's
Sexy
so flirty.
Yeah, she is.
Well, for her.
More like Eldred Bonus, am I right?
There you
Yeah, it's everything.
Boner Jonas.
No, I like Boner Jonas.
Jonas does exactly what he said.
Boner bonus.
Is he plays her like a fiddle. He's not
Yeah.
interested, but she gives him every piece of information that's in her head.
She beats Susan home, and when Susan gets there, she doesn't know what it is, but she knows something.
Yeah.
And fortunately, she can't put her finger on why Susan is different. She grills her about everything. Susan plays it totally calm. And we come back to the campfire with our ka-tet. And Eddie's like, "Hey, Roland, how come you can tell us what happened between people when you weren't there?" And he's like, "You don't want to know the answer to that question." And I guess we don't. And then Eddie's
We'll
like,
get to it.
"Fine, but how come you've been talking for like a week and it's still this
The
night?
same
Like it's
night."
still dark out." And he's like, "Time moves different here, Eddie, duh." And we're going to leave things on these two very unsatisfying answers.
I do love that it's basically this night will last. Basically says I have the feeling this night will last as long as we need it to.
Okay,
It's a palaver in the Golgotha.
I've been told that I
Yes.
tell stories that aren't great or a little too long, detailed maybe. This is my
No.
dream, that you guys would have to just sit in my stories and it would be perpetual night until I was done.
Well,
and
with-
then at the next morning, I wake up and you're a skeleton. I take your jawbone.
Yeah.
And that's it for this episode of Derry Public Radio. As always, thank you for listening. Join us for our next episode where we will be covering through Part 3, Chapter 8, The Ashes. For CM Alexander and Eve Gatto, I'm Joshua Kahn reminding you, if you love me, then love me.
Hey everyone, CM Alexander here. Thank you for listening to Wizard and Glass Part 2. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, you can let us know your thoughts on our social media. Search Derry Public Radio. You can also send us an email at derrypublicradio@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. And make sure you check out our Patreon page for bonus episodes. That's patreon.com/derrypublicradio. Our Etsy store for merchandise, etsy.com/derrypublicradio. And chat with us on our Discord. The link for that is in the show notes. That's all for now, listeners. Goodbye.